Hey, Katrina.
Hello, Pastor Aubrey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
So,
Staying busy.
how's your week been?
It has been pretty good. Off to a good start. Adjusting to life of having, a little one consistently.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah.
So,
How
how
about you?
I've been good. It's been we had a really terrific yesterday. We gave out food, so we were able to give out about 150 food boxes. It is interesting trying to manage all of that up, but it's going well. It's going well. I think we've been working out regularly, so that's been helpful. And so I'm doing that. We do that in the morning, so we got a routine. What I said before, we have a stride going. What do we have? A rhythm. That's it. A rhythm.
What time are you getting up early in the morning to work out?
Uh, we actually work out right after the prayer line. So prayer line is at 5:30, and then we're over about 6, and then about 6:15 we're working out, and then we're getting ready to move into the next part of our day.
Okay, awesome.
So we have a special guest today. We're excited to have her. We're grateful that she's here. She calls herself my little sister, and so that's because we've been in her life. I've been in her life all her life.
Hmm.
So she doesn't know what it is. So I'm like the big brother she always had. Um, uh, her and her mom lived across the street from us for all the growing up, and so my mom is Mama Sheila,
Yeah.
the second mom to her, and so we're grateful to have her here. She is going to tell you a little bit about herself. She's doesn't reside here, but she's been on Bob Talk, so now she went from watching Bob Talk to being on Bob Talk. So we're excited about that. Tell us, Davida, go ahead and tell a little about yourself. Welcome.
Well, it's Bob Talk is how I stay connected. I mean, I grew up in New Life and I grew up, like you said, across the street. And it's so deep where I have been really considering legally changing part of my last name to include Barnwell. Like, I'm really examining that because that's how much in my psyche I am a Barnwell. So, and I dare somebody to tell me differently. So, I'm Davida Haygood. Most know me as Davida Sharp. I currently reside in Washington State. So I'm in what is called Puyallup, Washington, which is about 45 minutes south of Seattle. So right before you get to Tacoma, that's where I live. I've lived here since 2002. So I've been here a long time. Um, and went through that. There's been a whole process in that. So but currently what I do as a position, I am the interim director of education at a local community college, which is called Pierce College. And so I'm also tenured professor there as well. So that's that's who I am. And I am born, bred, and raised New Life. So
Married with two children. One is
married with two, well, I don't know if I can call them children anymore. So my daughter Patience is 14 and my son Honore is 21. And so I'm married to my husband is Don Haygood. Some know him as Elder Don, but yeah, that's what I'm married to.
good, good, good. We're excited to have you here, and just to have the opportunity to hear specifically, because we talk about being connected, and Bob Talk is really about bearing one another's burdens.
Hmm.
Sometimes we don't realize, especially now in this season, that we don't have the walls, we don't have the physical constraints that we had before, and so we are able to connect with others when we could not before. I remember growing up years ago, my mother used to call my grandmother once a week, and they like, we can't talk too long because it's long distance, and recognizing that was just a phone call and you couldn't see anyone. And so the other day, it was funny because I was going through some old papers. I found one of a few of my grandmother's letters to my mom.
Oh wow.
Oh, it was, and it was interesting to read them, and I'm trying to figure out how to to package them in a way that I can present them to her because I she hasn't seen them in I know in forever because they ended up at our house. But thinking about how we stay connected, and I think in this season specifically as it relates to COVID, and we
Mhm.
think about what we were going through, and I heard this term that was interesting. I think it's it's because we have such a politically charged environment. So we had this term COVID fatigue, and we've sort of coined this phrase COVID fatigue. And what does that mean? I'm tired of the disease.
Mhm.
It says that these are things that we're going to have to we're adjusting. I don't know will we get back to normal. I don't know what that is. I was with a friend Saturday as a matter of fact, and I was talking to him, and he has two daughters. One is about 3 4 years old, the other one's just over a year, just maybe just under a year. So he was saying that they had taken her out, the baby, and the baby. Normally, when you have children, they sort of have some challenges with people with mask and stuff, right? He says she doesn't know anything but mask.
Mm.
So mass does not frighten her or disturb her because that's all she knows. And we're going to have a generation of children who will only know mass. They will know about social distancing. They'll know about hand sanitizers, and kids will be like. So we've got this whole generation that's coming up, and I think when we think about that and talk about COVID fatigue,
Right.
it is really a culture difference, and we really are culturally different, and I think we get tired of wearing masks, right? But what I learned in this was that me wearing a mask is not about myself, but it's about someone else. And I was sharing this with Linda a little while ago, and I said, when I wear a mask, I'm not wearing it for me. I'm really wearing it for someone else because I behave as though I had the virus.
Mhm.
And if I behave like I have the virus, I'm concerned about others that they don't get it. And so that's really the challenge. And there are some who say, well, if I have it, okay, I'm okay if you give it to me. But am I okay with me giving it to you?
But that's not
Right.
even how our world thinks. What you're doing is it's a concept that our world does not understand, that for once people are being asked to put the care and well-being of others, the
Above.
we over me,
Yeah.
and people are like, no, it's always been, about me and mine.
Yes.
And so that's huge.
Yes. Yeah.
Entitle entitlement. I think we are a society of entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it comes across in some of that, I have a right to not wear one, and it's
Right.
true, you do.
Yeah.
But are you concerned about someone else other than yourself? Um,
Yeah.
and I think about someone said if and I heard it put this way. This was a really good analogy. He said, say you had a gun and you put one bullet in it and you spin it around, right? And Russian roulette,
Mm.
and you point it at the person who you love the most, are you going to pull the trigger?
Mm.
Because the risk is that that individual who you love the most could be the individual who actually then gets impacted to the point where they could, yeah, the risk may be low, but still the risk is that we don't know how this disease um, impacts everyone, because it seems to be impacting individuals differently. But I think it's important that we see it in those terms, and that am I willing to put my loved one at risk for my right?
Mm.
So yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Is a
So how are you? So we just heard how Davida is staying remaining connected in this virtual world. How are you doing that, Katrina? What are you suggesting? What are you encouraging people to do to stay connected in a virtual world?
Well, I mean, so having calls like this, I think are important. There's a show that I watch on OWN. I'm not sure. Are you guys familiar with OWN?
Hmm.
Yes.
Oprah Winfrey's
Yes.
network. It's one called Girlfriends Check In.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
No, I
I've
If
haven't.
heard, but I haven't seen it.
you have not seen it, I'll just encourage you, because this is for the sake of this is First New Life. There's one episode on there with Tamala Mann, Yolanda Adams, Erica Campbell, and who was the other one? There was one more person on there. So it's kind of like how we're situated on here right now. And there's another person on there, and they do games. They actually, I guess, ahead of time they plan it, and so they all have gifts, and they open up their box together,
Oh, really? Okay.
right?
Oh,
It, it's a check-in, and so you can plan things like that. And I'm in the midst of helping a friend do that because she's all about party planning and stuff. And so she, around this time, she has a favorite things party. And so in her favorite things party, she would invite like 10 people. So it limits how many gifts each person has to buy. And you have to buy 10 of your favorite items. Each person buys 10 of their favorite items. And so you get 10 gifts. Basically, it's like a gift exchange.
Okay.
And
So-
she's going to do the same thing, but in the same way. And so I encourage people to get connected like that, especially if you have people who are distance,
hmm.
so finding different ways to connect, play games. I think in this season, I talked to my family more than I ever did before, like my family long distance, because we
Okay.
had a Zoom call on Sundays, and it was a whole bunch of us on there. We had to figure out we had to mute people, and you know, and then one day Anthony figured out this gaming, how he Pastor Aubrey, how he's always doing the like
Right.
not Wheel of
Well,
Fortune, but Family Feud and stuff
family
like that.
feud. Okay.
So we found one that you can incorporate into Zoom. It's
Okay.
different. And so our family just all participated.
It's a different
So
way of connecting. Yeah.
it's just a different way of connecting, but yet staying connected. And
I was reading a post that I had. I think I posted it in 2014, and I know I did not post it. Jonathan actually posted it
Mm.
and put me down that he got the quote from me and he posted it. And the quote was this. The quote was, "We can't enjoy the place where we are right now. We can't appreciate where we are right now. So concerned about the future and worried about the past." And so we can't enjoy where we are right now. And I think when we think about even thinking about COVID and being sort of restricted in what it says, can we celebrate and enjoy this now? Because there are those who don't even have what we have right now,
Right.
and having the ability to connect this way. And I think, as we look forward, how do we celebrate this opportunity instead of mourning what we lost or what we had, and then being overly concerned about what the future holds?
This reminds me, I was on the phone. A friend of mine called me yesterday because the last few weeks I've been having some really rough times at work and really rough times within some of the social justice work I'm doing within the city. And so he called me and he was like, "What's going on?" I was like, I'm sick of this. I'm tired of it. And he goes, "I need you to stop right now and tell me everything." Oh, hi. So cute. He said, "I need you to stop right now and tell me everything that you're doing well right now, and all the influences that are happening, all the things that are changing in the city. You're meeting with mayors and city council members, and I need you to stop, because what's happening is the enemy wants you to vast in all of the hard, the opposition that you're getting, the people who are calling you names. He wants you to just saturate yourself in that and not see what's happening in the midst of all of that." And it really kind of helped to recenter me, because I almost quit. I was like, "I'm tired of this. I'm tired of people. I'm tired." And he's like, "I need you to bring it back in, because we need you." So yeah, that's what you're saying is really good.
I was
that's what for me. That's a requirement for me when people are complaining and and I know you saw that episode, Davida, because you're on here, you're faithfully on here. When I had Pastor stop and just think about that negative thought and then identify his 5 positives. And it's a consistent, and this is the way I like to term it for us. Look for God in everything, because in the midst of the storm, in the midst of the process, we were talking about the process earlier. In the midst of the process, he's doing something. And if you can just stop and look for God in the midst of this storm, you know that you're going to come out in victory in the end. So like those open doors that he's working on the other side that you can't necessarily see him working on, is just knowing that he is at work. So yeah. Look for God.
And I have the Barnwell gene, where I tend to be the person in the room who will call out the elephant in the room, who will say it like it is. And it's not about disrespecting anybody, but it is, I'm gonna call the truth. And so what often happens when you are that person, especially when it comes to, racism, you are the target to receive a lot of backlash. And you're having to, I know there's this picture on Facebook, I think it is, where there's like a wolf, and the wolf has all these arrows in their back and still trying to cover. And just sometimes feeling that and being able to, like, Katrina, we use that bottle for children too, where the bottle's swirling, everything's going on, and be like, okay, I got to recenter. This is part of it. I was made for this. I had Henry Barnwell. I was trained for this. Like, I got Mama Sheila. Tim will tell you like it is. I was trained, like, seeing my past prepare me for right now, and understanding that it's hard, but God is doing a lot of amazing things in the midst of all this really hard stuff that I'm dealing with. Yeah. So
that's the part of the shaping that is difficult, I think. When we talk about, and this is what I say often, and that is, you don't know what you have until it's been tested. And so, and testing is difficult, but you don't know you have the ability until you actually test it out. You don't know you have the stamina or the skill or the knowledge or the wisdom or the understanding until it's been tested. And so we know, as an educator, you can go through a class, but you don't know you really got anything from the class until you get tested.
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah. And we all have it. We all come with capital. We have it.
Yeah. Why don't you introduce who you have with you, Katrina?
This is Honey's handsome. This is Ezekiel. Well, Anthony Ezekiel.
It's so sad. I watch him grow up on Facebook.
Yes, isn't that wonderful?
If he's asleep, lay him down. If he's awake, go ahead and bring him in here, because Anthony's training right now. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that way he wouldn't be disturbed.
One of the things that, and I want to pivot us to the question for the day that I have, and that is, we got it from Davida, and that is really dealing with failure. Dealing with failure, and what does it mean to fail? What does it mean to fail? What does it mean to succeed? How do we distinguish those things? How do we determine what's failure? What is success? And then what do we do? Because the other thing that is associated with failure and success is, how do I respond? How do I, and I'll say it this way, how do I fail well? And how do I succeed well? What are those things that happen for both of those?
So I lean back because, like, on my wall, I have this poster that says having a fixed mindset and having a growth mindset. And when you talked about failure, I don't know if you guys can see what it says here in the yellow, but it says, when I fail, I learn. When I learn, I improve. When I improve, I achieve. And one of the sayings that I like to say is, no regrets, just lessons. So that means, so like, failing is not really an option. So if I don't do well, let me ask you this. If you do bad on a test, say you miss a couple and you go back and you review the ones that you missed, what happens with those that you missed?
Well, do you want my perspective from the education department? This is where I think we lack in our education department. Because as of right now, if you fail on that test, you get that grade and that's it. Instead of having the process to go back and evaluate what those questions that went wrong and how you can grow from that and how you can, so yeah.
I mean, and I think if I, well, back in the day, I guess everything is electronic now, right? And so the test moves on, they change the answers, however it is. But if I have an opportunity to go back and I look at the answer, I'm not going to keep making that same mistake. I know that I missed that one, and that becomes etched. Like, how did I miss that one? That's going to be etched in my mind now. And so guess what? I've learned, even if I didn't know it, I know something new. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Think about it from an education perspective. Davida, they do pre-test. The purpose of a pre-test is so that we know what areas we need to work on and teach you, right? So no regrets, just lessons. I think if we can take that perspective, it's huge in our growth process. And not only that, if we take that perspective, it helps us to grow and be okay with making a mistake.
Yeah. Right?
And I think go ahead.
Not looking at it as necessarily a mistake, but as an opportunity.
There you go. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. Because I know even in teaching with my students, because all the students that I support and I teach are training to become teachers in the public school system. And what we've been really focused on is teaching them, stop telling these children it's a mistake. Because it's not a mistake. It's like exactly what you said, an opportunity for growth. And then also examining, why was it wrong? Because sometimes we will expect children to answer, or anyone to do things a specific way. And according to the criteria we set, they aren't going to get it right. But if there is this picture that it's a teacher at a desk is saying, okay, your final exam is everybody has to climb the tree. But you have an elephant climbing the tree, a monkey climbing the tree, the bird climbing the tree, a fish in a bowl climbing the tree. All of them aren't going to be able to climb the tree. So automatically there are people who are failing because people are determining what failure is for them instead of realizing what capital they have and setting up that success for that. If I have a child who is on the autism spectrum and I know that they think this way, I'm not going to force them to learn in a way of a child who may not have any disabilities.
Yeah.
So one thing what I'm learning, stop letting people define to you what failure is. Let God define what that failure and that success looks like. Because my success and my failure is not going to look like Katrina's. We may be hitting the same goal, but God is the perfect person for individualized learning. He knows Katrina, he made Katrina, he knows and he knows me. Yeah. And so realizing that process and embracing that, because again, if I keep walking around every day looking at Katrina as like, okay, that's my definition of what success is.
Yeah.
I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to succeed. And I'm going to be internally traumatized because you keep hearing, well, Katrina did it. Why can't you? Katrina's brilliant. Like I can't be a Katrina. I can't be an Aubrey. I can't. So, and that's oftentimes a challenge.
I think, and it's interesting because what you said was, I can't be a Katrina, I can't be an Aubrey. Years ago, one of the things that I wanted to do, and I'm still working at it at the church, was to develop a spiritual IEP. And what that means is that there's an individual development plan. They use it in education, as Davida knows. And so what I said was that we sort of try to do this cookie cutter thing where you come in and here's the process so that you can be spiritually mature, so that you can be spiritually well, that you can be mentally healthy, you can be physically. We have this box that we try to put everybody in. And the problem is that does not work. because
Yeah.
in order for that to work, in order for it to work for me, I'd have to be exactly like you are. I'd have to have the same DNA. I'd have to have the same perspective. I have to have the same skill and ability. And it really says that it is unique to who I am. And I think we have this challenge with trying to be like others, and trying to be, and so quote unquote be normal.
There
Um,
you go.
and even to the point where there are individuals who have IQs that are off the charts. That's not normal, right? So if you're trying to do that, then you're actually striving for abnormality. It says, and what it says is, I want to be everything that I've been designed and purposed to be. I want to use the skills that I've been given to use, and be able to use those in a way. And there are some very unique. Listen, when you think about the gift complex, you think about how complex we each are, and realizing I can operate in who I am and not have to try to be like someone else. I think one of the things that I would also, add that is that as parents,
Mm.
we have to be careful that we don't impress upon our children to try to be something that they're not. And even to the point where we grieve, and we really have to know how to grieve. We grieve because they don't do certain things. And how do I effectively grieve the fact that my son is not an NBA player? Right? I have this aspiration, but he doesn't have the aspiration. He might have the skill, but he doesn't have the desire, all of those things. And so I embrace the fact that this is who he is, and I celebrate who he is, not mourn over who he's not.
Right, right. Wow, that's good.
What comes to mind to me, Pastor Aubrey, is the Strength Finders, Gallup Strength Finders. Are you familiar with that, Davida?
Yep, yep, yep.
I remember one of the things that stood out, we actually did it in the marriage class, so marriage-based Strength Finders, and one of the couples did all 30 of theirs. And what she found is, they may have had two that were similar, but her top 5 were in her husband's bottom 5 and vice versa. And one of the things that I remember her telling me, she's like, I don't have empathy at all. And he has empathy in his top, right? And so, but you think about it, we weren't meant to be the same as everybody else.
Right.
Because what you lack, I may make up for. And that's why we have a team. That's why we can do it better together. So we don't try to strive and do everything the same and just like everybody else. So that was actually a huge lesson for me when we did the Strength Finders. Like, why am I trying to become something I'm not, instead of improving the areas in which I was meant to be strong in and grow?
And then when you're, go ahead. No, I was just saying, and when you're in that space, you miss your value. So you're walking around, like my friend would bring me back and say, look at your value. Look what you've done. You miss your internal love while you're sitting in that space.
That's perfect, because that was the one question I was going to ask is, how can we, because we're on Bob Talk, how is it that I can help someone else? Because I can get so involved and so engrossed in trying to be something else, and that there needs to be someone who celebrates and speaks into my life. And that's one of the things we can do when we talk about bearing one another's burdens, is having and making sure I have ears to hear that there are those around me who love me, and love me enough to tell me what value I really have in their lives, and in the value of and the value of others' lives as well. And so this is what you bring to the table, and it's necessary.
Right, right.
That experiences. So yeah.
I think this is where you got to have, and I think when we're talking about connection, you have to have not just, there's connection, I would say, I don't want to say levels, but kind of like the web. You have to have connections in different areas, because I have my church connections, I have my work connections, I have this is why Bob Talk is so important to me, because that's the connection of what is considered my past and my roots. So all of those connections are important to keep me understanding my internal value, or being a reminder of, Davida, why you are so adamant about social justice is because your roots. Why you're so adequate about, education is because of your mother and her roots, and having all those pieces be like, oh, and I bring me to the table. I would love to say, hey, I'm completely, utterly stable in my life. My life is perfect, but it's not.
Right.
And you catch me on a bad day, you're gonna get it all. But it's not. And I left Arizona 2002. I am not the same person as when I left. I'm still Davida, but I've grown, I'm matured, I've learned, I've bumped my head, I've been with a penny in the bank. I've been like, but that's part of understanding my path and my tests are designed for me. This is my IEP plan.
Yeah.
Did you hear what
So,
you just said?
Yeah.
what?
I've bumped my head and then I learned.
Right.
And I learned. Like it's that's a part of the process. It is a part of the process. And and when you look back over your process, I know when I look back over my process, I'm like, you know what? Now, God, I can actually thank you for what I went through. Because of what I went through, what I experienced, that has made me who I am and got me to this place where I am now. So I can only imagine the place that I'm going based off of what I'm going through now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at God and say, you did it, and I'm just watching you continue to do it. You have something to say too, huh?
Well, I was thinking as he was talking and you were working with him, I oftentimes, I teach, so I have students in Zoom, and sometimes their kids, like any other kid right now, they want to be part of it. They need their parent, they need their dad. So they come in and you see my students, they're like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, how is that not normal? That's normal. Your child wants you is normal. Your child needing you is normal. Society has told you you're supposed to be perfect and so professional all times. That ain't normal. You're
Yeah.
at home. Your child's hungry. Your child needs that's normality to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. This has been great. I pray that others have been blessed by it. I've got some good news I want to share. On tomorrow in City Council, they're going to be, my understanding is, voting on naming Rozier and 19th Avenue the Bishop Henry L. Barnwell Road or Boulevard. I'm not sure which one it is. So we're excited about what that's going to mean in honoring him. So we'll be keeping you posted on that. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We pray that those who watch this later would be helped by it. Davida, thank you so much. I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind closing us in prayer and praying for those who may have observed this, and even the topic that we have shared today might be of help and use to them.
Perfect. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this amazing time that we have. And I thank you for the reminder that you are our creator and our author, and no book is the same. No book begins or ends the same. And we are uniquely made in you for your perfected plan. So right now, I just pray over every viewer of this Bob Talk that they know that they are loved, they are valued, and they are beautiful, and they come to the table with capital, that you have ordained their life, and you're going to use who they are. Any bumps in the road, any successes, it's purposely put into place for them. And I thank you, Lord, for the connection to family, to my roots, to where I grew up, and I continue to play blessings over Bob Talk and success over Bob Talk. In your name, Lord Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you
And
so
he's Papa to me. Y'all can call him Bishop. That's my Papa.
Well,
You hear me saying that multiple times. I like that. I like the term capital. Our capital. Yes.
so thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week on Bob Talk. Same place, 2 o'clock on Tuesday. Love you all. God bless.